How's it going? Fox again for sound design tutorials. I had a request yesterday, I believe, by somebody called Alfredo Fernandez Najas. I hope I pronounced that right. Through my Google Plus, a comment on a drum and bass video that I did with a virus a few months back now. He wanted me to try and make like a rolling bass sound, the sort of like that Jubei or Alex Perez, people like that use. It's sort of I listened to a few tracks that he showed me in regards for me to find out roughly what I was aiming at. And they're sort of rumbling bass lines, but every now and again they sort of open up and there's a bit of distortion and effects coming through in the sound. So that's what I've tried to achieve with this sound today. So I'll play the sound on its own quick so you can hear what I've done. So yeah, here you have it, and a lovely deep sub bass, something that the virus does very well. There's a lot of, well, it's got all the classic oscillators as you would imagine, which are ideal for creating the sub sounds, but the effects and the distortion sections that we've got within the virus as well help you really beef up a sub bass sound. So yeah, as you can see in this MIDI clip, it's I started it on A2, so if you're trying to make this sound and it doesn't sound as high or as low as this, make sure that you're pitching it in A2 to start with. So yeah, we'll go ahead and init this sound. This is the only bit of processing I had on the channel, just it's almost like a low pass filter in effect once everything is done, but I'll turn that off for now. Delete the saturator because I didn't use it. So yeah, let's get down to it. Excuse me. Oscillator 1 was a classic. Oscillator 2 is a classic as well, nice and straightforward. Oscillator 1, I pulled it all the way to the left, so it's a sine wave. Pulled it down 24 semitones, 2 octaves. Just oscillator 1, nice and beefy sine wave. I didn't do anything else with this oscillator at all. Kept everything else how it was, a key follow and everything. I didn't sync the two oscillators together. Second oscillator is classic again, but push it around the right so it's a square pulse, and I pushed the pulse width up slightly to about 63, 64. Pitch this one down 2 octaves as well, minus 24, so a real deep bassy patch. Put the balance just above the B, slightly leaning towards the oscillator 2 side. Just helps it give a little bit of raspiness, this square, rather than just a pure sine wave. FM mode, I changed to wave. Again, this is just going to gritty the sound up even more. We're going to tame this with a filter. We're going to open the filter up with some modulation later on, just to bring this in later on in the sound. Phasing it, I pushed up to about 35. FM amount, I set as close as I can to a third. 33.6 I think is the best you can get. No portamento, nothing else to do in the oscillator common section. Oscillator 3 is wave 39. Pull this one down 1 octave, minus 12. Keep the detune where it is. Set the unison to twin, just to thicken it up a bit. Detune it ever so slightly. We're going to modulate this later on. Pan spread, push it up slightly as well, about 7%. Keep the LFO phase offset where it is. Bit of sub oscillator as well, only about a quarter of the way up. Bit of ring modulation just above the O. That's it for the oscillator section, nice and simple. As I say, 2 classic oscillators, and that is a classic waveform as well. It's one that they've got from an old synth from ages ago. I ain't too sure which one it comes from, but you can see all the pictures if you go into the sine wave one and then click on these. It shows you what they're like. It's the same ones here that you got in the this box at the bottom. Just you don't get a graphic to show you what they are. So yeah, that's it for the oscillators. filter section now. 2 low pass filters as always. Boost the resonance of both filters up to about 18. I changed it to serial 6. This means it's a 4-pole filter saturation than a 2-pole filter. It's just a bit more of a severe slope on the first filter. That's what I wanted for this sound. I wanted it to cut any of the high frequencies out straight away. Pull the cutoff of this down to 114. Nothing else to be done with this. Don't turn analog mode on. No envelope. Filter 2 is a low pass again. Pull the cutoff of this all the way back to minus 59. Virtually all the way back to 0. This gives it that lovely sub sound now, cutting everything out of the high end. Filter balance dead center between 1 and 2. We don't need to set the filter envelope up or envelope 3 or 4 because I don't use any of them in any modulation. Anything we do with the amp envelope is back it off slightly to about 21. Pull the sustain level back to about 89%. Tiny bit of release to about 9%. You are probably going to need to listen to this with earphones or through monitors if you really want to get the gist of the sound that we're making, because it's a really low patch. So yeah, nice and simple again. Nothing too hectic. That's the filters done. We'll go to an LFO section now. The only LFO I used was LFO 3. I turned it on, set it to a quarter note, changed it to a sine wave so it was nice and smooth, and I used it for this one that's already preset in this box, oscillator 1 and 2 pitch. I pushed it all the way around to 60%. You can hear what that's doing. Later on we're going to modulate this cutoff so it opens up a bit as the sound progresses, so you're going to get to hear the LFO working when we do that. Just helps a bit of movement in the sound so it's not just a static subwave. So yeah, so that's it for the LFO. Nothing else to be done. Quarter note, sine wave, oscillator 1-2 pitch around to about 60%. So we'll go to the effects section now, and then we'll set up all the modulation in the matrix section at the end. This is where we get to beef the sound up. FX1 is an analog boost as always. Pull the tune down, character tune to about 10, so it's pointing towards the low end. Mix round to about 65%. Can't really hear what that's doing, as I say, because the filter's all closed. But when we open it up, you're gonna get the benefits. Distortion I used was an Onion Overdrive. I don't usually use this one. I did today. Pull the mix back to about 83.6% and drive to about 42. Chorus I used as well, just to help thicken it up. I use a vintage chorus, get the crossover rate and depth as they were, and I push the mix around to about 50%. I do use quite a lot of chorus on a sub bass. It sounds weird, but you can't really hear it, but you can. It does help and thicken the sound up a bit, but not to the point where you'd be able to say, oh yeah, there's a chorus on that. I use a comb filter for the same reason, just to help space it all out, push it across the spectrum. Mix at about 45%, frequency at about F1, I think I had it, resonance at about 28%. I did a lot of EQ and I boosted the lows plus 10 dB, the mids plus 3 and the highs about plus 2. Just a throbbing pulse at the minute, as I say, but a bit of modulation I did in the clip to show you in a bit. FX2 now. I use a simple delay, turn it on, kept it on minus 8 dBs, kept it on classic. Set the rate to 1/64. This is a very, very fast delay. It's almost like adding another chorus to the sound. it's that fast that you can't hear it, and it's on beat, so it just thickens the sound up. Push the feedback to about 32%. Use a tiny bit of reverb as well. Minus 28.1 I had it set on. I had it on ambience, which is the smallest reverb what we've got to play with. Decay 68 and the damping on 15%. Keep the colour where it is, no pre-delay, keep the pre-delay off. So yeah, that's it in regards to the basics of the sound. What I'm going to now, I'm going to assign a lot of parameters to the mob wheel. So when you're playing, you can open the sound up at the end of, well, 4th bar, 8th bar, whatever you want, or you can play with it as you play with the modulation as you're playing. So yeah, we'll go to the matrix section. By default, slot 1, the mob wheel is already selected. We'll change the first one to filter 1 cutoff. This means the mob wheel is going to open up filter 1. The designated amount, I had it on plus 41. Filter 2 cutoff, push this one positive about 15, 16, something like that. Third slot I used for unison detune. That's this one here. That means as you open up the filters, it's going to give you more detune on the unison, which helps gives it a nice effect. That was set to virtually all the way to the top, about plus 55. I used 2 destinations in slot 2 as well. Set that to modulation as well, mob wheel. What I use this one for is LFO assign amount. This is how much LFO you're going to hear in effect. And it was LFO 3 what we used, so LFO 3 assign amount. I'll push this all the way minus to about 48. The last one I used was filter bank frequency. This is this here, which is the frequency of the comb filter. It's almost like the pitch of the comb filter. So yeah, I used that and I pushed that positive about 3/4 of the way to the top. So yeah, that's it now. I'm going to play, I'll play this little, I'll play some notes for you and then I'll open the filter up so you can hear the effect it's having. So yeah, you can hear it opening the filter up and then adding all these effects. I mean, you can pretty much put any of the effects you want in here to help spice the sound up a bit, but he asked me to make a sub bass, which is what I've done. I just wanted to give it a bit of difference like Jubei does in some of his. So yeah, you can just use this patch as a sub bass, not do any of these destinations at all, just keep it as a flat sub with a bit of movement that the LFO gives it. I thought it was a nice touch to add these to the mob wheel though, and what I did to get this the movement that you heard in the MIDI clip earlier on. Oh, the only other thing, sorry, I need to do. You go to common, change the key mode to mono 1 because it's a bass patch. Simple. Yeah, the only thing I did within this MIDI clip is I went into, because I use Ableton, you can go into the envelope mode and you can modulate any parameter you got in your synth. This one I'm modulating here is modulation, which is the mob wheeling effect. So all those parameters we assign to the mob wheel, you can draw in the modulation in your MIDI clip. Better than trying to play it all bang on and off to the time that you want within to a metronome. It's very difficult for me because I'm not musically trained, so it's easier for me to draw it in like this. So yeah, in effect this is opening the filters up and the modulation up to maximum and then down to 0. And then these other ones are just intermittent, different values throughout, but I've tried to keep them as on beat as I could. If you zoom in, you see they're all on an 8th note if possible. So yeah, I'll play it through again so you can see the modulation. You can hear it working with this MIDI clip. So yeah, little drum beat I made with it. yeah, there you have it. The drums that these sort of producers do, Jubei and Alex Perez and that, they always seem to be quite simple, just sort of a two-step drum and bassy beat, not a lot to them. They tend to let the bass do all the talking, which is what it's all about with drum and bass. But yeah, I hope you learned something. I hope this is okay for the chap who requested it. Any more requests, whether it's for the Virus, Massive, or any of the synths I use, please feel free to ask. Just a quick note, my Virus tutorials from now on will be going back to ADSR. If you're not subscribed to them, head over there. It's www.youtube.com/ADSR tuts. They're giving me a chance to showcase what the Virus can do on their channel again. But for now, yeah, stay tuned to my channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. youtube.com/MrMFox22. And Facebook and Google Plus page is Sound Design Tutorials. Okay, thanks for watching. Cheers.